Well, welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Jain Irrigation Training Series. I'm your host, Richard Bastucia, Vice President of Water Management Solutions with Jain Irrigation. And today we're going to be branching out a little bit bigger than just water management today or water technology. And we're going to be talking about new technology for landscape in general. You know, the landscape industry has a lot of opportunity in looking at technology. And they're starting to accept some of the technology I've seen come in. And the ones that seem to be doing it well seem to be getting a little bit of a head start on increasing margins and getting more sales just from being more efficient. I know when I was at Valley Crest, we looked a lot of the technology at the time and adopted wherever we could. So fortunately for us, we have Brian Horn as our guest today. And Brian's the editor of Lawn and Landscape magazine. I know most of you are subscribers to Lawn and Landscape. If you're in the industry, I mean, everybody's reading Lawn and Landscape. Really love what Brian has done with the magazine, and in particular, their on-site presence and the content they've been generating online. I really thought that was great. I've known Brian for, gosh, I think about 10 years now, and he's doing a great job over there. He's also a great writer. He's also a great speaker. And anyway, he's just come from their technology conference in Scottsdale, Arizona last week. And so, Brian, I think you saw a lot of technology there last week, and I know you're going to share that with us. So thank you, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. We had it in Scottsdale to force everyone back inside because 102 degrees get you back on a trade show and in education halls.
Yeah, so Brian, tell us a little bit about the conference to start with. You know, how big is it? What did people see? How did it go?
So we started it in 2019. We did the first one in February of 2020, right before COVID. We got it there in Orlando, Florida. We had to shift it to August in 2021 just because of COVID stuff in February of 2021. But the idea was, you know, I would keep hearing technology, software. I have this software and I'm using 10% of it, or I'm confused about autonomous mowers. And we just kept hearing this word and this word and this word. And so I started to think about all the people I've encountered that are dealing with this technology. Might not be very common, but it's common enough that I thought, you know, we could fill, you know, a half day, a day and a half day of education. A lot of exhibitors, a lot of software companies, a lot of technology I didn't even know about what came to our first one to exhibit, and it continued to come. But the thinking was that we wanted to get like-minded people in a room together, because not everyone's going to be invested in technology and software. But I thought if we could get everyone together, networking on the trade show floor, in education, ideas would just start being shared. And so, like at this past one of our speakers was speaking and she was done, and I was trying to wait to thank her, but somebody was talking to her and they were having this great conversation. They exchanged cards and said, "Hey, we'll talk next week." And I was so happy to see that, because that, you know, we put a lot of time in the education. We love the show floor, but it's really about connecting someone in Wyoming with someone in Florida and making them have a shared connection.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know we had a booth there. I know Mike Palumbo and Andy Bellingary were there, and they said it was fantastic. They saw a lot of people, they said, and made some great connections that's going to help. And so one thing you said, though, that's interesting, right, is even if I think about technology, Excel, something I've been using for well over 20 years, right?
Right.
I'm using so little of Excel, right? I think, one of my old bosses had the Excel Bible. It was a book about that thick.
Right.
And he was an expert at it. I'm probably getting 5% out of it. So you do need this training, right? If you're pivot tables, you're an Excel genius, right? But it's still very little what's there. Exactly. So I think you guys did some panel discussions to really help people conceptually understand what they can do. Is that right?
Yeah, we had the last day was 3 panels. We had an autonomous mowing panel, battery powered panel, and just a panel about with companies and, you know, customers wanting more technology. How do you keep the face-to-face? How do you keep the culture? How do you keep, for decades, we've built relationships on face-to-face meetings and conversations. So how do you not lose that? And then we also have sessions, just individual presentations from landscapers. It's very important to us that we have landscapers presenting. We had one keynote who was from outside the industry, Jack Shaw, but he's really tailored his talk to the industry. And this isn't a huge, gigantic, when I say trade show, I don't want people to have this idea of this huge show. It's a smaller, niche event, like I said, with like-minded people and all focused on technology.
Yeah, really cool. Now, one thing you mentioned is contractors as speakers. Isn't it great when you can get contractors educating contractors? They kind of throw this idea of competition out the window and they say,
Oh,
let's
and it's the one thing I have found. I've been with Wana Landscape since 2010, and immediately, maybe 1% of the people I ever encountered with or talked to were like holding back secrets. It's always been like, there's enough customers out there. Let's just share what we all know. Let's make everyone better. Let's raise prices and profit, and everyone benefits. It's very much and part of that might come just from a lot of the companies started with, college kids starting mowing their lawns. That's always the stereotype. I know it's beyond that, but just, generally good people who are willing to help each other out. And like you said, you're getting up there and presenting, and some of these presentations, they're being very open. This is what we did. This is how we did it. This was the result we got, and answering questions afterwards. So it's that sort of openness that is great. And then, it can be a challenge finding landscapers who could put together a presentation and present it, because they're not professional speakers. They're executives for landscape companies, middle management. They might own the company, but for the most part, they're a little nervous, but they hit home runs as soon as they get going. As soon as they get a question or something, it's like, boom, they turn it on. So I'm really appreciative of everyone who speaks and who's on the panels, because I don't like public speaking, and they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart to help the industry and to help us out. So it's always very appreciated. Really speaks to the people in this industry.
Yeah, it sure does. And by the way, I wouldn't know you didn't like public speaking. You're doing a great job today. And
It's just you. I don't see everyone else.
and I've seen you do others, so I know that. But many years ago, back when I started, I was a contractor account manager, and I would take contractors on an annual trip, and they couldn't wait. They were from across the country. They couldn't wait to see each other,
Right.
and share best business practices. And they couldn't wait. I mean, they really, every year, when's the trip? When's the trip? We want to go back and see everybody.
And I've talked to a few executive directors of some state organizations who they were executive directors of other industries. And I said, are other industries like that? They said, absolutely not. You might go to a show and it's one person per table and it's like everywhere. Whereas like this industry, you've got to make room for people at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, I want to remind everybody too, we've got the Q&A and the chat open. So if you want to make a comment or ask a question of Brian, put them in there and I'll get them to him when appropriate. So, all right, I got to tell you, I just, this idea of autonomous cars is great. I think, driving on the highway, we probably got to figure this out a little bit more. And then when I think about autonomous tractors or autonomous lawn mowing equipment, I think, wow, the safety issue is much lower. It's much less of a risk. Mm-hmm. So I've really started looking at autonomous mowers, and I'm getting into that. And so, Of course, I want to ask you about that today. Is this happening? Is it real for the landscape industry right now?
I think it is and it isn't. So I remember when I started in 2010, hearing about it was very big in Europe, the residential model, the little Roomba type mowers. And, it just sort of just hung out there. There were safety issues, avoiding, things in the yard, avoiding poop has always been a big thing. Same thing with the Roombas in a house. So definitely the residential ones are farther along than some of these commercial ones. On our panel, that we had two commercial panelists they just said the wider the area we could test these out in, the better. We're still testing it out, but the technology is here. Residential is a little bit more common. In my neighborhood, I've seen one on someone's lawn. So they're available, they're for sale, you can buy them. But I think the key message with it is, if you're running a landscaping company, you should at least be keeping an eye on it. You might not even do maintenance, but it's just something to keep an eye on. One thing that was brought up on the panel was most houses, the yards aren't designed for these autonomous mowers. There's different points and turns and stuff like that. And some companies are starting to take that into account when they are designing a landscape, is that if we're doing autonomous mowing and we do design, let's design a yard where we can drop this in and it doesn't have to worry about anything. It doesn't have to worry about hitting a hill or getting stuck in a corner. So that's why when I get asked that question, yes, the technology is here. There's a lot of money being spent on it. A lot of the main manufacturers are investigating it. So it's coming. I would definitely keep an eye on it. And that would be my advice. Don't ignore it. Don't say, that's never coming. Now I don't know if I'm getting in an autonomous car. You can talk about the mowers. I'm not getting in a car that drives itself, but a mower, I think it's definitely realistic.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I went online, to do a search to see, gee, what would an autonomous mower for my house cost?
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised. I was really surprised at the price. It was maybe 3 to 4 times the amount that I would spend on my normal lawnmower.
Right.
And I thought that was affordable, by the way. I
Yeah.
really, I thought it was going to be 5,000, not,
Right.
$1,300, $1,500. And then I started to ask about, well, gee, do I need one for the front yard, one for the backyard? And you said something interesting about that when we.
Right. So you don't, but as far as I know, you don't. I gotta sort of give a warning. What I'm saying is a lot of this stuff, I've heard so much about autonomous mowers, I can't remember what is happened, what's happening now, what's happening down the line. But a lot of they're trying to get away from the technology of basically installing like a wire in your yard to keep the mower within your yard, sort of like you would with an electric fence for a dog. They're really trying to get away from that that type of technology and just do it by either GPS, sort of over the top seeing it, or with cameras, where the cameras can basically serve as eyes and work their way around things and avoid stuff. So as far as I know, you would not need one for the backyard and front yard. Now, if you had to go over, I think even if you had to go over a driveway, they could put the wire under the driveway.
What about my gate though? What about the gate, right? Do I have to leave it open or what do you do?
Gate, there was an invention, and I don't know the status of it. And when we did our pre-show talk, I forgot to look it up, but there was like a door you could put on a gate. And basically it was like a doggy door for a lawnmower. It just goes through it. So you don't have to worry about leaving the gate open, or if you leave the gate open, the dog can get out. The door would be small enough just to have the mower go underneath it and no animals could fit in.
Yeah, very cool. So,
Right.
And the other thing, that I think about too is when you think about landscape maintenance, and let's say you're running a reel trimmer, right, edging,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably very efficient if you did that for 8 hours a day. You'd probably really learn to use it well. But
Mhm.
you imagine trimming for 8 hours?
Right.
Or sitting on a lawnmower for 8 hours every day. Now it's not 8 hours you're driving to and from jobs, but
Right.
it's very monotonous. And then after lunch, sitting on that vibrating lawnmower, you get sleepy.
Falling asleep.
Yeah.
Get the headphones on, and that's another thing, is that one of the positives for the autonomous mowers is the thinking being that if you're doing like an HOA, you could drop a few on lawns, and then you can be edging and trimming, and then at the same time paying attention to the lawns. So, and there's a sort of thinking that these are replacing humans. They're not replacing humans. They're replacing jobs that can't be filled by humans. So that's why they're really investing in this technology.
Right. That's why I liked it so much, right? The labor issue is so big. So
Mm-hmm.
you move that person from that mower
Right.
and use them somewhere else.
It was funny. Our keynote, who had not a ton of knowledge about this industry, really like talked to 15, 16 landscapers and suppliers. And he goes, it's clear that the challenges in this industry are 1, labor, 2, labor, and 3, labor. That's what I got from my discussions. And I said, well, you definitely talk to the right people.
Yeah, it's funny, right? I don't need more. I could have all the more business I wanted if I had people. So
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So Brian, help us out here. What was some popular technology that you saw last week that people are using and enjoying?
So I mean, the main stuff is just sort of back office software, stuff to make you more efficient, to track time, to track where your trucks are, GPS, systems like that. Those are sort of some of the more common stuff being used. Like we said, autonomous mowers, they're starting to be to be used. We had a presentation. It was a father and a daughter, and this is sort of giving background on how slow this industry might be to embracing digital components. So she's about 25, her dad's 50. They're a company up in Boston, and she starts working for the dad's company. She gets laid off from her job. I'll come for a few months, help clean things up, and she was appalled at what she saw, because she was coming from a tech company, and she was, Dad, what are you doing here? There's papers, there's whiteboards everywhere. You have nothing digitally. And so slowly but surely, she started putting her stamp on it and moving things over to a digital world. And he was like, he fought it a little bit, and they would sort of argue about some stuff, but eventually he bought in, and it helped the company grow. But just to see sort of that we're still a little bit behind with embracing technology, and just going paperless can be very alarming to someone maybe a little bit older. Like I said, you not completely ancient. You're in your 40s, 50s. You're still working. You're still there every day. So that was interesting. But we also saw there's battery powered equipment, which I'm sure we'll get to. But that's sort of some of the more popular stuff being used. The software is definitely where a lot of the investment is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's talk about battery equipment. I know in my Valley Crest days, we often made bids, and places like Google and Apple would say, you have to do it. It was great to see that the customers were demanding whoever was going to provide the service use battery powered equipment for two reasons, right? They thought it was better for the environment, and also the noise issues. So yeah, what are we seeing? Any changes or developments there?
That is definitely being more embraced. Obviously, with some bans in local municipalities, California has their ban coming down the pike here. But we do surveys every year, and I forgot to get the exact amount, but I just anecdotally noticed that every year we ask, who's using battery powered equipment, who's tried it, and it just continues to go up and up and up. Part of that is because manufacturers are investing more money in it. The main complaint you always heard was it's not powerful enough, whether it's a battery powered mower you're doing, or you're, a blower, like they're just not powerful enough. So we just did a state of the battery powered equipment market last month. And we asked, because there still are skeptics, a lot of skeptics, to be honest with you, but what is the main things that stop you from investing in it? 65% said the runtime is too short. 59% said the equipment battery is too expensive. 56% said recharging it takes too long. And then only 42% said not enough power. And I think, again, that's something the manufacturers really focused on, was getting the power up to be more efficient. And so we had the panel for battery powered equipment, and we had a contractor who is in it. He's like, actually all three of them are really in it, but one of them was a smaller company, but really invested in it, was buying electric trucks, and he has just said, he's noticed that the battery time has gotten a lot better. Charging has gotten a lot better. It's still a little clunky, but overall, if you really focus on it and invest it does work. We had a larger company on the panel, Siebert Landscape, and he's bought into the battery powered. You can use it for marketing. You can say we're environmentally conscious, and this has been a case for the past few years. Companies in Texas and California and Florida, in Arizona, when it is I think it was 90 degrees at like 9 a.m, when we would go walk to the convention center, you got to start earlier, and you can start earlier with the battery powered equipment. And I was telling you that I a few years ago bought a battery powered mower. I'm basically lazy. I got tired of worrying about if I had stabilizer in the mower over the cold Cleveland winters. And then is the thing going to start after sitting for 4 months? And with the battery powered one, you put it in and go. And when I stood next to it, I thought, man, it's pretty loud. But then my son has recently taken over the lawn, and I forget he's even doing it. I'm upstairs working. I don't even hear the mower. So it definitely is quieter and can get you started earlier. And it's just more conscientious. If you are doing an HOA or a commercial property, you don't want the loud equipment. So that definitely helps with that.
Yeah, it really is. I know I have an electric mower too. When I bought it, my neighbor, you mowed your lawn today? When?
Right.
He had no idea. He could not hear it, so,
And did you have the plug-in ones with like the
no,
long cord? Okay, you had the
no.
battery ones.
Yeah, it was full battery. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I made that shift and it made a big difference. And then, like you said, starting earlier, or even if you're on the job and not disturbing people,
Mhm.
this is a big deal to
Right.
customers,
And
especially hospitality and commercial business.
and for your employees sitting on it for that long, it helps with them having to. They're still wearing the ear protection, but it's definitely easier on the ears.
Yeah. And then I have really noticed a difference in the length of battery on anything new I've bought in the last 6
Mhm.
months. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, the power, the times I have to recharge it are much, much less than stuff I bought 2, 3 years ago.
Right. And they're going to become cheaper too.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's a nice change for everybody. And boy,
And and there might be people listening saying, "Oh, you're crazy," but the advice that the panelists even gave and that I've heard is like you don't have to completely invest. Gas mowers still work; they're still fine, but you might want to, again, like I said about autonomous mowers, just keep your eye on it, keep investigating it because eventually it might be a fit for you, even if it is a hybrid model of gas and battery powered.
yeah, very nice. So. Okay, and then is the technology, one day I said something about Apple computers, and I said, when are they going to have a smart controller? And the person said back to me from Apple, never. It's not plug and play, right? They
Right.
want it really simple. Are there some plug and play technologies that people are using today?
Like I said, the battery powered mower and that equipment, it's as far as my dealings with it, it's just you drop your battery in, you just have to make sure it's charged. If you have two chargers, or one charger, you're just swapping batteries out. You would probably know more about smart irrigation controllers and things like that. Those seem to be pretty much user friendly to use. But overall, I mean, and like I said, the autonomous mowing maybe is not there yet, but those are two I think that are pretty easy to embrace.
Okay, great. So then based on what you saw last week or heard, do you think we're going to see much difference in the landscape business in the next 10, 15, 20 years? I mean, we got to start looking out that long, right? If we don't change the way we're doing some things, there's not going to be a future. So,
Yeah, so some of the things our keynote had said was, virtual reality and augmented reality. Those are having impacts in other industries. And in this industry, wouldn't it be great to put a virtual reality, headset on someone and have them practice applying chemicals to a lawn virtually? That
right.
you're not going on someone's lawn and putting the person out there first. I know a lot of lawn care companies do it on their own property, but think about if you could save the actual chemical you're using or whatever you're using to do that and the time to do that on a mower to see how someone can mow a lawn. And we also learned the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality, whereas augmented reality is like that line on a football field. He took his grandson to a game and first down, he's like, Grandpa, where's the yellow line? Like, how do I know where they're supposed to go? So that's augmented reality, whereas virtual reality, you're basically entering a new reality. He also did something taking you through the design process. I want to say it was like 5 or 10 years from now, and I won't get into every detail of it, but took you through the homeowner finding someone to design, online, virtually, or through like an app. They start talking about a bid. The family puts the virtual headset on, can walk through this future backyard and see where they have a bench and a koi pond and trees and everything. And then it finalized I have my notes here. He calls it a smart contract. And it's basically you're using blockchain. We can get into that if you want to. I don't know much about that. Using blockchain to pay for it with the phones. So it's basically like they were using face recognition, and then boom, the bid was sold, and the designer was paid. So I think some people in the audience were like, I don't really know if that's going to happen. But I mean, 5 years from now, technology is going to change a lot. I was talking to one of the panelists on the autonomous mowing, and I said, we've done this every year and I don't want it to get stale. And he's like, this technology changes every 6 months. Like you could do this, a webinar every 6 months and things would change. And I said, that's what I was thinking. So, you think about what's going to happen a year from now, think about 5 years from now.
Right. It is interesting. And, I say we were talking about COVID and that time period. In some ways, COVID accelerated technology.
Oh yeah.
We had to figure out things, how to do things without being together or being at the office. And this would be a great example, right? Of,
Well, and think about how video conferencing was already there. Like I think Zoom was around, like you could have
right.
used it. And I know like it helps with sales calls, like maybe some, if you have a client who really doesn't, even before COVID, didn't want to have to sit down for a 2 hour sell job, you can just do that here from the comfort of your own home. So that's what I find that funny. Like all this stuff was here before COVID. We just didn't see a need for it.
Yeah. So one of our viewers is mentioning the new property measuring equipment, right? Instead of walking with the wheel, there's a better way to do it, right? Today, did you see any of that technology?
There was a booth that had, and I'm drawing up, I can't remember what the name of it was, but you could put your phone on top of the measuring thing. And I didn't actually talk to him. I just was reading what was on there. The thing about hosting a trade show is that you don't get to visit every booth like you do when you're covering it. You're doing other things. So he you could walk a property and it looked like everything would just get uploaded into the phone. So you didn't have to worry about writing anything down, or you're not like doing this and doing this. It's all into the phone. So yeah, there's tons of stuff like that that you wouldn't even think about that was on the trade show floor.
Yeah, I can't believe what a time saver that is, right? Because, most landscape maintenance companies are measuring 10 properties to get 1 or 2 jobs. I mean, this is part of the life.
Yep.
Day to day, you're measuring properties to do your bid, and it takes a lot of measurements. So that's a really nice piece of technology that'll really help.
Yep.
So, and I guess too, doing some aerial images too. So no wheel even needed sometimes. So
yeah, and drones, we had sponsor the keynote was a drone company. I don't think we had a drone. Maybe we did have a drone booth. But drones also becoming more popular in the industry, just to have that aerial view for like a design build project for measuring maintenance, inventory for trees, spotting diseases on larger properties. And every state I think is different as far as, although maybe the FAA, you have to go through all that stuff. That's a little beyond my scope, but they look like they're a lot of fun to fly.
yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Well, I used to work for IBM in the 90s. And I said, I don't know if the personal commuter is going to make us any more productive, but it certainly is more fun to use, right?
Exactly.
And there is an element of fun that adds to that.
Right.
So, you mentioned that autonomous mowers, something to keep your eye on. Maybe not. Maybe it might be a little too early right now. Maybe not. Just know where that is. Any other technology we should be keeping our eye on for the future right now?
Well, I just think all of the software companies, the amount of private equity money that's been invested, some have been bought, that is being pumped into these companies, they're going to be advancing their technology really fast, and it's going to be done for you. One complaint you do hear from a lot of contractors is, well, I can't just use one software company. There's always 2 or 3. And that was something we heard from exhibitors, is that it was great to see attendees, but booth over here and booth over here don't do what each other does. And they were talking about ways they could work together on stuff. So that was something cool that we heard. But that's like a main concentration, is anything that can make the back office software more efficient, easier to use for not only the owner, the back office person, but the people in the field. Make it easy to learn, make it even for the person who's fighting this, just likes the paper, likes the way they used to do things. This makes things easier, it makes things faster, it makes us more money.
Yeah.
Yes, there is an upfront cost, but as they like to say, it's not a cost, it's an investment. And that's the way you need to look at it, is you're investing in your company to make more money.
Boy, isn't that true? And you talk about labor, and sometimes it's easier to attract labor if they see your company as forward thinking and advancing.
Yes, and customers care about that too. If you are not embracing the technology, they're going to go to the company that is. Our keynote did have a quote. He said that I'm paraphrasing, technology isn't replacing humans. Humans who embrace technology and learn about it are replacing humans in the workforce who don't want to learn about technology.
That's pretty accurate and pretty important to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brian, are you going to do the conference again next year?
We are still trying to figure out a place. It most likely will be around the August timeframe. That seemed like it's working out well. So we did it in Scottsdale this year, Orlando the past 2 years. So we're looking to go back east and try to do like a back and forth just to get different crowds and make it easier for some markets to get to every other year. So hoping, fingers crossed, in the next maybe hopefully 3 weeks to have more information on at least a location and some dates.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. I'd love to see it next year. Like I said, Andy and Michael really enjoyed it this past year. I'd love to have you back in June to talk about who's going to be there and what people can learn. And I think that that would be great. I think our viewers would appreciate that, and they can decide for themselves if they want to attend or not. But
Yeah.
knowing ahead of time would be great. So will you come back in June and do this again?
I would love that. It's hard for me to comprehend that right now. Just all that more sessions that we have to plan. But yeah, I'd love to come talk about it. And I'm hoping that the sessions will even be more advanced. And like we said, in that year's time, who knows what technology is going to bring us.
Yeah. Well, listen, Brian, thanks so much for your input today. Love what you're doing with Lawn Landscape, and really enjoy the magazine and all the content you guys are producing. It's really great. Want to say thank you to our viewers for checking in today, learning a little bit more about technology. And you can see all our trainings at janesusa.com/trainings, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So, Brian, anything you want to say before we sign off today?
Yeah, just lawnandlandscape.com is our website. We come out monthly. If you don't have a subscription, sign up, either digital or print. Like I said, keep an eye out for the more information on our technology conference. And thanks for attending, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks to everybody. And we're going to be back here on Friday with Jeff Toole, and we're going to talk about some solutions to the drought in the West, and how agriculture has to play a bigger role and what they need to do that. So anyway, we'll see you guys on Friday. Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, bye now.